Hello, welcome to week 8. Today we're talking about two concepts: art is pretentious and art and money. So, before we start there, we're going to talk a little bit about abstraction in art. So, abstraction's kind of an ambiguous term for many people. Could mean anything from right here, abstracted, to non representational, and I'll talk a little bit about the differences. So, the spectrum of abstraction. So, what we consider to be photorealistic would be called naturalistic, where the artist is trying to portray the world as close to what the human eye sees as much as possible, capturing light, shadow, volume, space, surface, texture, implied text, all of that stuff that we've learned in the previous 8 weeks. So that is the furthest from abstraction. Next, we have stylize. So, stylize is more or less trying to represent the real world, but not necessarily as accurately as naturalistic. So, you can see here that things are a little bit flatter, the perspective's a little bit off, and that really makes it unrealistic. We can tell it's not a photograph right away, but it does represent volume, shadows, light, etc., pretty well. So it's again, that's one step away from being picture perfect. Next up here is idealized. So this is, I don't know the exact statue or person this is of, but an idealized form is taking something we know and making it into something that's the platonic ideal of it. Meaning it's the absolute best representation of something that can be. So this could possibly, I don't know who this is, but let's say if it's a human mortal as opposed to a god, I believe this is Greek. Um, this would be the most beautiful representation of a Greek person that the sculptor has made. So most people don't look like this idealized form. It's just what we want people to think of when we think of A or B or C. So it's sort of symbolic in that sense, where it's meant to represent the best of something, and hopefully people from outside of that culture or whatever see that as a prime example of how great these humans are. Further down the road is abstracted. So abstracted means less than real, purposefully made to look less real and more artistic and more expressive and more of an interpretation of something that exists in real life. So obviously, right here we have a bovine of some sort, probably a bull. I think those are horns. Yeah, those are horns. So here's a yellow bull. Obviously, these don't exist as far as we know, but we can tell that it still resembles a bovine somewhat, right? Even though it has this bright lemon peel form, and it's doing this weird little dance thing, which maybe they do that. I don't know, but it's within this landscape that is obviously like kind of weird looking. This is oh, I can't think of his name. It's Franz something or other. Um, his name escapes me, but it's going further and further away from trying to represent what we see with our two eyes. And then these next two ones are non representational. This is actually in the middle because this is an interpretation. I don't know if this is the same artist or if this is, yeah, this is the same artist. This is basically this artwork broken down into shapes. So you can see the yellow, big yellow here, a blue strip like right here, green right here. Obviously, it's not exact, but things are represented pretty similarly, but completely in geometric forms. So, um, yeah, it's still kind of representing something. It's representing this bull in this landscape, but it's completely abstracted to where you don't see the representations. But you can argue that it is a really messed up representation of the world. Whereas on the right, this is, oh gosh, um, this is one of the most famous abstract expressionist painters, and I can't think of his name right now. Um, but his artworks are completely um, non-representational, and non-representational meaning there's nothing that refers to what we can see with our two eyes in real life. So there's no bull here, there's no landscape, there's no person. It's just paint on the canvas. And in this movement, abstract expressionism, part of the goal was to just painting keep painting referring to itself. Like, this can only be a painting. It can't be stained glass, can't be a photograph, can't be a sculpture. This artwork right here can only be a painting. Okay, and there's a lot more that goes on with this movement, but essentially that's the end of the furthest end of his abstraction, from naturalistic all the way to non-representational. And then again, these 3.5 steps are in between, where they do try to represent the real world. And non-representational paintings are just paintings about paintings, more or less. So I have this note here: all art is an abstraction because a painting is made of paint. There is no actual cow on the canvas. So what that means is everything is an abstraction, because um, there's the only way this could be completely real is if you had these cows in a farm on this canvas, right? Obviously, that's not what it is. It's a bunch of really beautiful um, brushstrokes made to look like that. So, in a sense, if you really, really break it down, this naturalistic painting is an abstraction of the real world. It's trying to represent the real world, but it can never actually be that. See Baudrillard for that. Don't remember that name. He's ridiculous. All right. All right, so the reason we're talking about this is when we talk about abstractions, most people will be talking about non representational work. There's definitely instances where people say abstract and they just mean kind of artsy, or something like this yellow cow. That's abstracted. Um, we're talking about, most people mean non representational work. If you're in the real world and someone's having a party and starts talking about um, gosh, what is this artist's name? Whatever his name is, like talking about his paintings being abstract. You don't need to say, well, it's actually non-representational. It doesn't matter. Like, in normal everyday life, who cares? Um, but we're in an art class right now, so I'm teaching you this specifically so you'd know the subtle differences, and maybe you could use it to impress someone if you want. I kind of dissuade people from trying to impress each other. Just be natural. Um, all right. So, anyways, when people hate this type of work, it usually means they value artwork that looks like the world we live in. Again, this goes back to naturalistic paintings. So, obviously, someone without who's never done art would say like doing this naturalistic painting is much harder than this non-representational painting on the right, because it's just paint, right? Just three different kinds of paint painted on this canvas. There's no attention to detail or shadows or depth or anything like that. It probably took a lot less time to do it. Um, and so that's a big deal for people. Like, they want to see a lot of brushstrokes happening. They want to see realism happening. They might be able to appreciate this because it represents the real world. They'll probably be able to appreciate this because uh, it's an idealized form. It's done very well. This they might enjoy. They might think it's kind of stupid, and why not make it realistic? And that's valid. That's honestly valid, and I don't dissuade people from thinking those thoughts. But again, these are reasons why people might not like non-representational work, because well, it doesn't really look like anything that I can recognize, and humans look for patterns in artwork in nature, like as a survival mechanism, right? Because if you recognize something, then it's easier to classify, and if you don't know what something is, it's easier to fear and maybe a threat to your life. Paintings probably aren't, but in general, people tend to, or people do gravitate towards representations of the real world. I'm not going to get into the uncanny valley here. That's a whole different topic. But this is something that is a valid thing. They want to see artwork that represents the real world. Another point is they may think it's mostly scribbles and nonsense randomly put on the canvas. They may not account for the elements and principles that apply. That's pretty self-explanatory. Um, it can look kind of random, and the reason for this, people think of it as random and stupid, possibly, if they think that is. Well, I mean, kids draw a lot of scribbles, and to them, it might not look different than scribbles. It's just like, okay, they're just using a paintbrush instead of a crayon. Like, what's the big deal about it? Uh, if you take in mind the elements and principles, that might make a little bit of a difference for someone, but it might not. If you might just be like, I don't like how it looks right now, and walk away. And I do that all the time. We all do that all the time. There's always things that are ugly that we don't give a second chance. Just because it seems kind of weird or random or nothing, or it seems like no effort's been put into it. Um, Next point, they usually want something concrete to connect to, but there's no hook in abstraction. So that kind of goes back to the first point. But with a lot of these, there's not really an anchor point. Like this one, there's like these two boxes. So what do you focus on? What do you look at? With this naturalistic painting, I think the artist is Lisa Bonheur. That was my sad French accent. Yeah, and she painted naturalistic paintings of these bovine, and obviously those are the bovine are the subject of the painting. Whereas on the right, this dude is painting just colors. There's nothing really to like sink your claws into except the colors themselves. And they don't want to spend time or effort into how it can make them feel. Again, this is valid. Um, yeah, you don't have to feel everything about every painting. You don't have to feel anything about every painting, I should say. It's yeah, some people don't necessarily need to be challenged by art to enjoy art. Um, Again, that's fine for this class. It's not you. I'm just kidding. Um, it's definitely a valid way to think about art. Is well, like I don't really care to put effort into it right now. Like this isn't my thing. I want maybe I want to know about it, maybe I don't. I don't know. So it's really up to the person. But the reason this is important is to recognize why, if you don't like abstract paintings or a particular one, why is it? What is it that you value in painting? So what's good about it? So first one is it just looks cool. This is my main reason for liking abstract paintings. I love abstract paintings more than representational paintings most of the time because it just kind of looks really amazing to me. Just they're kind of like things I'm into the psychedelic experience, not the drugs of psychedelia, but the notion that of experiencing things that are otherworldly or don't exist on Earth or aren't perceived by humans normally. So to me, like abstraction is just like really cool because it's like I want to see weird stuff. I love weird stuff. And also, the second point, it's you can interpret it any way you want, and I think a lot of abstract artists really go by that, where there's no really. It's not necessarily meant to mean something. It's meant to be open ended for someone to sort of feel how they want to feel about it. Um, I know that might not sit well with people, but deal with it. That's how some of us work. Um, and a good way of a good analogy for this is you don't really question every note every note a musician makes. Instrumental music, it's kind of rare for people to question, well, why are they doing this? Why isn't there any words? That could happen, of course, but a lot of people really are able to accept abstraction with music. Abstraction meaning um, no vocals, because there's nothing to tie them to reality. They're just sounds organized in space. That's what music is. So um, you can think of abstract paintings as instrumental music, for example, and try to possibly enjoy it on its own merits of what it looks like, what are the elements and principles that are um, used here, well or not well, who knows. And the last point is the way it can make someone feel that's impossible to describe. So the abstract expressionist movement, which this bottom right one was a part of, I can't believe I can't. Mark Rothko. Mark Rothko. So a lot of artists in that movement wanted to convey emotions through painting that could only be done through like their way of painting things. So I've heard stories of people crying in front of these paintings because they're pretty big, and just staring at one is like kind of staring into the void or staring into your own soul, something like that. Um, and it can really, really move people, and it can sort of serve as a mirror in a sense. And yeah, and sometimes you can't really put that into a cow image or someone screaming with joy, like an image of that. Sometimes it's just like a colorful emotion or just shapes and stuff. Um, like the way you can use shapes to represent. I'm like I can't think of a really good non-video game analogy, but there's this game called Thomas Was Alone, which is about like squares and rectangles that are different colors, and the writing, I haven't played it yet, but the writing is so good it gives character to these squares and rectangles. So yeah, like you can put meaning inside of something, and then that meaning will come to you, and it might keep on giving you this meaning, forever. Or it might just be pretty, or you might just not like it might make you angry, who knows. All right, so what about stuff like this? This is Abstract Painting Blue by Ad Reinhardt, 1952, also part of the Abstract Expressionist movement. So this is a pretty simple painting. Obviously, it's just three shades of blue with subtle tones or whatever. So definitely some thoughts are, you're a pretentious hipster if you like this. It's just a blue painting. It's stupid and I could do this. Why aren't I famous? All right, so I have no problem with being called a pretentious hipster because it's it's related to this question: what do you want from art? Like, I have an education in art, so I like to look really deeply into things, and a lot of criticism of someone being pretentious is thinking it's more important than it is, or it's just a blue painting. It's nothing more than that. I like to look further into that, even if it's not symbolic or whatever. Because again, I suck at symbolism. Um, I don't mind being called that because, well, it just means like I'm making it more important than it really needs to be, and that's fine with me. I don't mind when other people call me that. Um, I've accepted that. Especially my roommate calls me that all the time. And yeah, I kind of wonder, like, what does that mean, and what does that say about me, and what does that say about people who call each other hipsters? Well, um, yeah, I'll definitely go further into that in later slides. But here's why I, Daniel, personally like this painting. Blue is my favorite color. I'm very sensitive, so I appreciate how there are three shades of blues. There are subtle changes. That means when little changes occur in this painting, they stand out. So yeah, even though there's only three tones in this, basically like I notice when it's darker at the edges, lighter in the middle. Um, Same right here, it's darker in the middle, lighter in the edges. When there's little changes like that, I tend to notice that because I'm looking at the painting. I'm looking at it more than just the blue painting. If it's just the blue painting, then we'd be talking about Yves Klein, but who just made blue paintings. That's just a specific color that he mixed up or invented. This has subtle gradations in tone. Um, it's not for everyone. If you want representation, it's certainly not here. Um, but it kind of looks like this can be physical, like these are ribbons or highways or something like that, just made into different shades. So it kind of gives an illusion of space, which makes it a little bit more interesting to me. Um, the skill involved with that's more than you would assume. So painting, like Ed Reinhardt was a master painter. He was really good at painting. This is something he did after he mastered painting. Like Picasso was an amazing painter before he made um, his wacky stuff, basically. So it does probably take more skill than one would assume, even, or it might be super easy. I don't know because I've not this person. He's dead, and these canvases are big, so it might take more effort than it looks. For some satisfying reason, for some reason, satisfying to look at. That's honestly a good enough reason to like something. Is it's satisfying to look at? Why do you change the color of your room or change the color of like dress? Like you pick it because it looks good, and that reason's valid enough to like something, right? Yeah, I definitely admit that it is harder to get into something like this, and sometimes that barrier is put up by curators and museums and galleries. Sometimes they are trying to make it more important than it is, um, which is another topic we'll talk about. But also keep in mind that Ad Reinhardt studied painting. He had connections in the art world and probably had a good business sense. So there's a reason we're looking at this is because Ad Reinhardt was a famous painter. This probably sold a lot of money. We'll go over money later, obviously. Okay, so this is a video that I want you to watch on your own. There's a lot of videos here. I would love for you to watch them all on your own. I don't expect you to, but it's a good idea because they're excellent. All right, so this video is a case for abstraction. I'm going to play and mute it so it could play in the background while I'm talking about what it's about. So essentially, the summary here is so painting abstractly. The reason I'm talking about painting is because it's the first medium people think about when they think about art, including myself, admittedly. So painting became abstract over a long period of time. You can see as it's progressing here that forms were always represented very straightforward and um, naturalistic, and then as you can see as time moves on, um, things don't have to be that way. The reason for that, well, there's many reasons for that, but one of the biggest reasons was photography. Photography was able to accurately represent the real world. Pardon me. Um, and painting no longer had to do that. So before photography, people relied on paintings and drawings and sculptures to really understand, to tell the future generations this was what life was like. This is something that happened. Here's this landscape that existed here that I wanted to paint. Um, so once photography was able to do that, there's no longer a need to do that. So that opened up a lot more avenues and a lot more doors for people to start just painting abstractly. Um, and so it was kind of a gradual march towards abstraction, um, but yeah, there's many different reasons to make abstract paintings. Sometimes abstraction is the best way or only way to do this. Um, and you can see here the 1800s Hilma af Klint. She was making abstract paintings before like the big abstract expressionists were in the 1950s or so, and Yeah. So, and then when we look back further, it's like, oh yeah, like people from thousands of years ago were making abstractions on. Let me move forward, or maybe it's like closer to here. Anyways, people from like different civilizations, um, other than like Western civilizations, were making abstract paintings on their pottery. Like that's abstraction as well, right? And so abstraction's always been a thing. It has different uses, but it's kind of looked at differently when it's put on a wall of a gallery. And that leads us to this video. Why all these why these white all white paintings are in museums and mine aren't. So this is one of the most contentious things about art is seeing these like blank canvases in art museums. So in the intro of this video, people are saying like, "Oh, this looks like my linoleum floor," um, when they're talking about this painting, right? So this is the painting that's people say like, "Oh, my floor looks like the ceiling." Um, so these are put in the context of minimalist paintings. So yeah, I guess they are all minimal. So a few things to know about this is most of the time they're not just pure white paintings. Um, I'm I'm so the curator in this she sound she's trying not to be, but she definitely sounds kind of snooty saying this. And I'm trying my best not to sound snooty saying this. But these white paintings, there's different things about them that you need to know. So one of them is, for example, they're not just pure white, not all the time. So you see, there's like when you're looking at paint for your room, and you're looking for variations of white instead of just pure white, to soften the tone. So there's colors in here, and just like here, there's textures here. Not we're not looking at Jackson Pollock. There's like stuff like this, right? Where it's just like doesn't look like a whole lot is going on. Let's get another example. But that's not a painting. It's okay. So we'll just go back to Robert Ryman. So what this video? Oops. So what this video is essentially saying is these aren't just purely white paintings. The easy counter argument to that is, well, there's still not a lot going on, right? It's stupid. It's unskilled. Um, we'll talk about skill in the next video, but this goes back to the question: what do you want from art? Okay, so if you're looking for bold, colorful paintings, this is not it. This is not where you want to go. Um, you will probably only enjoy these if you're really looking close at the paintings. So if you see these on the internet like we are now, it looks stupid. Like it's pretentious, right? Um, if you go in person, you might change your mind, or you might think it's still stupid. But these paintings are made to be seen in person. It They don't really make sense in the context of computer. Um, so when you're there in person, you might be able to see little brushstrokes, variations in tone, hue, little details that you couldn't on a screen. But yeah, again, that's only if you care to look that closely. So me being a teacher, I need to be looking that closely at these things, right? As someone who studied art and someone who's an amateur at painting, amateur at best, I know painting is hard, and it's for me. I really do enjoy looking at like little brushstrokes of paintings, whether they're full of life or whether they're minimalist like this. If they're minimalist like this, then I'm more likely to look closer when there's a lot of stuff going on. A naturalistic painting, for example, I might not be as um, inclined to look that closely. And so these paintings are basically there to tell people who are willing to do it to look close at this. Notice little tiny details, right? It's the difference between a casual listener and an audiophile. Most people don't mind listening from Spotify or streaming services. Some people, um, like audiophiles, which people probably do call pretentious, like really enjoy listening to with really expensive, not really expensive, extremely high quality studio headphones, with extremely good stereo system, um, right? And so those people are looking for different experiences. Some people just want to feel the music, like go through their body. Some people really want to like listen to every single detail and really study the intricacies of these notes and how they go in and out and back and forth. So again, these paintings are for like the quote unquote audiophiles of the art world, visual audiophiles. So people who really, really are into looking deeply into paintings or looking closely into paintings, are people who kind of have to like art historians and curators. um so yeah, it's a different kind of thing, that it's a different audience. Like not everyone's going to be into black metal, for example. I don't think people would call black metal pretentious. They might think of it as just weirdo stuff that sounds unpleasant. But for some people, like like that's what emotionally affects them the most. So that's what they'll gravitate towards, and people will think they're crazy, but um, that's what they're into. So um, yeah, and again, there's a lot of things that artists can be doing with this that they can't do with bright colors and stuff. So it all depends on the person. There's no easy answer to why should I care about white paintings. Well, what white painting? By whom? So it really is a matter of a case by case basis. So in this class, yes, you should care. Outside of this class, just know that there's reasons these exist, but you don't have to care about these reasons. You can pass them by, that's fine. But it's always good to give things a chance, especially when it makes you angry or upset. All right. And the and she goes on about reasons why they exist. All right. So now this video is called "I Could Do That," and this we'll take this painting as an example. Um, so what about paintings where you say to it, "I could do that"? Well, there's many reasons why this is kind of a false and easy exit. The first one is you didn't do it. It was up to the artist to make this thing. So yeah, like first of all, you didn't do it. You didn't. Well, you weren't able to make this painting. You weren't able to market it. You weren't able to network and know these curators and artists who could get your painting in this. So the these are made by artists who have connections in the art world when they're inside galleries, like or something like that. So you didn't make it. That's like the big thing, but and that's the most important thing. Like, well, if you could do it, why why didn't you? So why don't you actually just do it and like prove them wrong? Like, hey, I could do something better than that. Buy a canvas. Try to do something like it but better. For example, I think this is the best example or best thing to do when you come across this. A painting that you could do is try to do it, and there's many reasons to do this. First of all, you'll possibly gain an appreciation for it, but you'll also sort of see how there could be skill in this, how it could be weird or tiring or exciting. You might fall in love with this process. You might gain more appreciation for this artist. You might think, okay, this is really stupid. But the thing about doing something that you think you could do is, well, you're trying it. It's so much better to try and experience something before and knocking it before actually trying it. Um, course, not everyone's able to buy like canvases this large and invest in paints to make a scribble to try to prove themselves better. Um, but that those obstacles should tell you like, okay, there is a certain floor to how you get there, because you could find material like out in the wild. You could like steal a painting and paint over it, you know. I mean, don't do that. But you know, there's ways to do things for cheap. I can't go over possibly because there's a lot, but also you the first point being made is you probably couldn't do that. So again, it does take more skill and a good eye to do things like this. Usually, I would say most of the time you see a thing in the gallery, it probably does take considerable amount of skill to do. Um, yeah, again, you didn't do it. It was artists who did it. It was their idea. They're the ones who marketed themselves. They're the ones who like thought, I really want to make this painting. I really want it to be in a gallery. So if you didn't put in that effort, then don't really have the capacity to complain and it to be sort of valid. Um, it's hard to say this without trying to sound like I'm talking down to people. I'm just trying to give a dose of reality. Um, the context of where it was made matters. So yeah, it probably matters who's the artist who made it. They might be famous already. They might have a fantastic body of work that they've done beforehand that you might love. Like again, Picasso's a good example. When he was a child, his paintings were better than anything I'll probably be able to ever do, and he was able to move to his weird abstract paintings, right? But he was extremely skilled. Um, Photography wasn't considered art or skillful when it started. So, yeah, so maybe going back to the context, yeah, maybe it was like mind blowing and different for when it was made. Maybe it's like just boring now because, well, we've seen it a million times. We've seen things that have eclipsed it as far as skill is concerned. So think about the time it was made and how that might be an important factor in it, where the artist might think it's crap now. You know, who knows? And yeah, going hand in hand with that is, yeah, maybe it opened up a new avenue of thinking about art at that time. Or what if it's related to some sort of project that really helped people out, um, or is profound in some way, or maybe it was made for charity, stuff like that. So when you see these artworks that you think I could do that, keep these questions in mind. Did I do it? Can I do it? Can I make something better? What was the context behind that? Who made it? What was it for? What's the purpose of it? You know, it's good to look at those sort of things. Art is pretentious. All right, so the gist of it is kind of the same as the other ones, more or less. So the main thing about this video is, yeah, art is kind of pretentious because essentially what artists are doing are they're taking raw material and trying to make something beautiful out of it. And most of the time, there's exceptions. Uh, we are trying to impress people with our artwork. Like, if you make artwork and you want other people to see it, you kind of have to assume that it's something they want to see or it's worthy of their attention. So, in a way, art is very, very, very pretentious. Uh, my personal example is going to grad school at U of O. I submitted a portfolio of 16 images, hoping that I would be better than about a couple hundred people. Um, that's pretty pretentious, thinking that I could make artwork better than other people who wanted this position, right? It's the same idea as applying for a job. Like, if like thinking you're better than other people, you're more qualified people to get this job. It's the same thing with art. It's just that it's it's less about making a living and more about like beauty standards or whatever context you're talking about. But Yeah, so once an artist makes something and puts it on a canvas, for example, it it costs a lot more than the paint that you bought and the canvas that you bought. Like need to think about the skill it took to make that, the time and effort, and the material costs. Think about all those things. That's why art can get kind of expensive. Um, there's other reasons too, which will be coming up very soon. But yeah, and one thing to know about artists is that I would say most of the time artists do feel an imposter syndrome where we doubt, like, are we making anything good? Just go on like furry Twitter and you'll see like the artists like doubting themselves for, I don't know if this is good. This is just kind of a sketch, but like, and it's amazing stuff. Yeah, artists are very insecure. Um, so in spite of that, yeah, we like you do have to have a little bit of courage and be foolish to sort of think, yeah, I'm gonna make something that I want people to look at, So it's kind of an ego thing, but at the same time, that's what sports is. Again, that's what applying the jobs are. No one calls athletes pretentious unless they're like personally pretentious in real life. It's the same thing, just a different context that seems more optional. Um, Art's not optional; it's necessary for human life nowadays. Again, the reason like people get mad at these is because of money and fame. So this is a video, Adam Ruins Everything, where he kind of talks about the art market. So I stopped trying to be a part of the art market, the gallery system, after grad school because it's not about merit. It's not about how good a painting is. It's mostly about, at the beginning, about marketing, um, being able to meet the right people, go to a bunch of shows and try to like meet other artists, meet curators, show them your work, try to impress them. So to get into like the gallery system and make money off art, you have to be good at marketing. I'm awful at that. I don't know how to BS anything, and you do need to BS a lot. Um, you have to pretend you like people who are obviously insufferable assholes. That is a fact. I hate to say, unless you're more at like a local folk art sort of thing. There's a lot more integrity there. It's a lot better. Big galleries stuff. Ugh, no, not into it. I'm not trying to dissuade everyone, but it's something I can't deal with. So going further into this, art's expensive because some curators and gallerists and art historians make it important because it suits their needs. Art collectors who are rich people who have so much money they don't know what to do with it buy art, and it's a tax write-off when they donate to a gallery. Um, and so it's not really a fair system because it definitely privileges those who are able to fit into this world of people who can people who are rich enough to buy these pieces. Again, it's really sad because a lot of artists couldn't afford their own artwork, their the market value. Like they can make it, but when it's on the wall and it's $37,000, most artists can't afford it. So it's basically a way to sort of serve the wealthy when you get into this market. And yeah, you can make a really good living off of it, and then you might be an art star and be popular and famous. But that's so rare, and that's done by playing the game of the art market. Um, so I should say there's many types of art markets. This is a gallery, like fine art, gallery world art market. Again, like local farmers markets, like Saturday markets. Like those are a lot more mellow. There's definitely competition and stuff going on there, but not nearly as bad and manipulative. So yeah, it's very sketchy. So we want to think a lot about the context of a painting. So this is an example of basically an abstract painting in a hotel. When we pass by those, we generally don't think like this art sucks. We think of it as something decorative. Whereas an abstract painting like this, if we see it in a hotel, like it might not be offensive, right? But if this probably sells like tens of thousands of dollars, when money comes into that, that changes things quite a bit for people. Um, and yeah, we'll talk about the banana real quick. So, so think about the context in which something is made. If your daughter makes a finger painting, that's abstract art just as much as it is uh, like an Ad Reinhardt painting or something. Um, if even if you like have your 2-year-old daughter like paint on a canvas or whatever, like it's still the same thing. It's still an abstract painting. So it's something where the context does matter and affect people's perceptions about it. And again, money is a huge part of this because why would someone pay that much money for a painting? Well, for most of us, it's a rich person's game. The thing is, when it comes to abstract paintings or any artwork that costs millions of dollars, honestly, just don't pay attention to it because there's a bunch of like money trading going on that you're never going to be a part of because those are for bad rich assholes. Let me put it that way. Unless you're a self-described rich asshole yourself, anyone who's watching this, I assume you're not the rich asshole. I assume if you become rich, you'll be a good person. Um, so, so those prices only matter if you're engaged in this world of art trading and upselling artwork. Like rich people will buy paintings from each other and sell them to each other to drive the value up. Art auctions are all about that. So um, when it comes to paintings being super expensive, like they're not like ordinary people like you and me, and they're not looking for how good an artwork is necessarily. They're looking at like what basically they want something to make them look good, to make them look, I have this important painting by this dead painter, or by, let's just use Picasso for example, like this is a Picasso piece, like that's why it's a lot of money. And why is that more money than like someone else, like a beginning student starting out? Well, because there's time, skill, and all that, but there's also a history that he has. Everyone knows the name Picasso, but no one knows like my name, for example, outside of this classroom and people I know in real life. So so Picasso is able to capitalize on all of those things because he has this rich history of having these skills and these clients and people buying his stuff and people loving his stuff. Um, I don't know if this is true or not, but there's a story of how he would sign checks. Picasso would sign checks and people would keep the checks because they had his autograph on it. You know, so yeah, it's a lot of the money stuff that you hear about is just sensational. It's not really important to most people. It does kind of suck if you do have some money and you want to buy something, but it's like a couple $1,000 too expensive. That's when it becomes a problem when you personally want to buy it. But a lot of these artists that are selling things for a big price isn't is because of people the system of people buying the art. So sometimes it is the artist's fault, but most of the times it's not. And they're kind of a system. They're part of the. They need to generate work in order to make the system work. So it's kind of a weird, sketchy world to think about art and money because it fluctuates a lot. Like if I could, like I would love to give everything away for free of mine, and I have been, but I'm thinking a lot about like okay, like maybe I should start trying to sell things, but I want to sell them at more reasonable rates, because I don't want to charge $1,000, even if I put a lot of work into it, like no one's going to be able to afford that. I don't know any rich people. So it's again, it goes back to the context of why is this art so expensive? Because it's in a world full of rich people. So the banana, this is a really good video in itself, but basically the summary is the artwork, like a lot of people think this is really stupid. Like, why does duct tape and a banana cost that much? So again, it goes back to the context. Essentially, this is made by an artist, Maurizio Cattelan, who's had a very illustrious career. So it's not just some random guy. It's at the Miami Art Fair, so there's a context of that being an important art fair. He's always done pranks like this, so it's not completely unusual. But how could he get away from for selling a banana and duct tape? So, first thing to know is he's selling a certificate of authenticity. If you know NFTs, it's kind of like that. Basically, saying like whoever buys this authenticity certificate of authenticity can display this banana in their gallery in this specific way without the artist having to be there. So um, it's just an ordinary banana. It's just ordinary silver duct tape, but it's a certificate of authenticity that costs a lot. So if someone tries to do this in their gallery and they don't have that certificate, they could get sued for a lot of money. So they're buying the ability to sell that, and also it's just kind of a joke, like I think of it. I think it's kind of awesome in a way that like it got so much press and attention because it's so simple. And again, think about the context that we're talking about: rich people buying artwork. So people buying this are both very smart and suckers. So they're suckers in the sense that they're paying a lot of money for this certificate saying you can display a banana this way. Um, but they're also brilliant because, well, they own the rights to be able to do that, and they can get a lot of press like at their gallery for this controversial banana. And people got really upset about this banana because it cost so much, and made memes about it, and that's brilliant. Like Maurizio Cadlan is a genius for doing this. Like it's definitely a sort of funny way to do it, like a very, very silly way to do it. Instead of something made through pure skill, it's something made by pure idea. So even though if you might not like the idea, you know that he's benefiting greatly off this, and that's great for his career. That's great for his bank account. Great for his fame. Like he's definitely a winner in all of this, and anyone around it still a winner. So what's really cool about this is that what the host says, Sarah, she says what's cool is that people really care about art. Like the fact that they're willing to get outraged about this, that shows that people care. Pardon me. Let me see if I could go to a like an art. This is like kind of an art fair where there's a bunch of different artists, different paintings and such. So, um, again, the context really does matter. Yeah, I'm not gonna find a good thumbnail right now. So if it's just on the street, no one cares. It's just someone just taped a banana to the wall. But when it's put into the context of a gallery, that's when the stakes get higher, and that's when people start caring and think, "I could do that." But again, you didn't. You didn't have the idea. You didn't have the history. Um, your you didn't have the career behind it to be able to do that. If this was like an artist, a random artist trying to come up, it's probably not going to work. But because he's known, and he's known for doing stuff like pretty impressive stuff. Sometimes it's very skillful. Sometimes it's not. Um, the context of it matters, and that's the big takeaway of this. Um, Context is key. So appreciating the artwork is not the same as liking it, but sometimes taking time to appreciate something can lead to liking it. Um, so I'm gonna rush through these slides. These are the same slides from week one. So remember, like when it comes to this artwork, think why you like and dislike an artwork. Like, oh yeah, I dislike it because it costs so much money and it's famous. Like, why aren't I? Why don't I have a show? Or why don't I like this? Why does it piss me off? Because I'm not making money off it. I'm not famous for it. Um, if you love it, like, why do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy the fact that it's famous? Like, it makes rich people buy a banana and duct tape. essentially, like a certificate for that. Like, that's stupid and funny. I love it. Like, why do you enjoy it? Um, Modern art, these stupid idiot old white men aren't looking into this. They're using their surface ideas of what art is to complain about them. Um, so remember, blanket statements judges are unhelpful. So look at it in detail. If like that banana, that's you only need to spend 15 minutes on that video with a banana, and you don't need to think about it for the rest of your life. But think about it. Like, don't think, okay, this is stupid. Like all artists are stupid because they can get away with this. No, this is this one artist. There might be artists here and there who do really weird stuff. Those you tend to be the extreme examples. So think about diving deeper into that world. Like, look at their other artwork. Don't just get mad at them. Like, get mad. It's better to get mad at all of their artwork, and maybe you'll actually like them, and maybe you'll enjoy the context behind their artwork. You might think, oh yeah, this guy is tricking stupid rich people into buying this stupid banana duct tape thing. Like, that's awesome. Or you might think, this is a stupid way to do this. um, be open to new ideas. That's the most important thing to me. Is just open your mind. Self-explanatory. Um, and again, you don't have to be vigilant about enjoying stuff all the time. You can dislike something if you want to. You don't have to think about everything. Um, and just remember. Oh, is it at the beginning? Um, Remember, what do you want from art? So think a lot about what you're trying to get out of art and why you like it, why you don't like it. It depends on what you want from art. So yeah. All right. So that's it. So tomorrow or next weekend is Memorial Day, I believe. So there is. So in spite of that, I am gonna teach a class for fun. There's no reason to come here if you don't want to. They're just gonna be bonus topics, some things that I haven't covered that I wanted to, and I'm gonna take suggestions for things you might want to learn about that I might happen to know about that I can teach in a few minutes. So yeah, this is the last official class, but I will be here next week, same time, just because why not? You know. I love teaching art, and this is just so much fun. And I want my students to have a chance to request something that they might not have heard that they wanted to. So, yeah, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you sometime, maybe, or maybe not. Toodles.